deployment. So we got a couple of issues here from Ivar open. So thanks for that also. We managed to clarify some things. Like this was an actual issue where context identifier and context type were ambiguously defined in documentation. As you see, this part of the documentation said that context identifier has to be model and plan, and context type has to be 3D and 2D. So we clarified this and we will correct it. Unfortunately, it took a while before we had the clarification. The rule, as you see it above, is specified with this in mind. So that's one that was open, that was closed, as a matter of fact, and then we had some updates to the schema, which I tried to merge as much as possible yesterday, but I do want at least 2 reviews on every open pull request. So if anyone wants to share their reviews here, it would be much appreciated. That's on the IFC specification repository. You just go to the pull requests, and then you filter IfcTunnel pull requests, and you can see which ones are still active and open. Once there are 2, I merge it, and then the either the schema or the properties or whatever gets generated. I was planning on regenerating the documentation. It's not updated yet because I would like to merge at least a couple more of these pull requests here. I got the reviews now for the ones I requested, and the documentation will get generated today in the evening, I would assume. Any questions on that? Oh, by the way, still, even if there's no documentation regenerated, you just go to actions, and you always have the newest schema if you just filtered schema generation here, and yeah, last one was generated 2 days ago. Yesterday there were a couple of merges that only dealt with documentation, so that's why nothing was regenerated. Any questions to this part?
Where can we find the documentation?
The documentation you will find in your BSI infra room organization. It's the repository IFC documentation tunnel. So here the latest documentation is uploaded, and you also have the link to the documentation posted in the index page where you can get to the actual documentation.
Please, could you share the link?
Sorry, I got a bit of echo. I didn't understand that.
Could you share the link?
Certainly. Let me put it in chat. If you're ever wondering which state the documentation is in, you will see the dates, of course, over here when it was uploaded. So this one is not now reflecting the state because it doesn't make sense to always regenerate for one typo or for one comma or something like that. I try not to regenerate stuff.
Sergey, that table of pull requests you had up before is a bit misleading because it shows a 1 under reviews, but that seems to be linked issues because there's actually, I did review a couple of those ones you tagged me in yesterday.
Okay, so let's go back to it. These are all open, yes.
Yeah, but if you click on the top pull request, then you'll see there's been 3 accepted reviews, but that table doesn't really show that.
That's true. So we can also switch to review required. I don't have the stuff set up. All of them have one review apparently, but I want 2 reviews. So let's see, approved review, maybe this, okay. These are the approved ones. These I can, these I will merge. But I was merging yesterday in the evening and I didn't have them. I mean, at night, as a matter of fact, I didn't have them yet. These will be merged as soon as possible, and then I will regenerate. So this one might not have. Oh, it does. I'm always looking for 2 reviews, just so you know. If we go to the entire filter for all of the IfcTunnel pull requests, anything that comes in, I try to tag with the IfcTunnel project. So if I forget something at some point, just let me know. If it doesn't show up, but the filter, the easiest filter is always just this project filter for IfcTunnel, so that you can see what's going on. And you can also, if you're that kind of a person, you can also go to projects then and look at the project. Classic, as a matter of fact, that's an old project, IfcTunnel, and look at the actions. So this is done, and this is in progress, the ones that I showed you, and we also have some to-dos as issues. So if you post an issue under issues like predefined type of IFC borehole that John posted, I will also try to tag them with IfcTunnel, and then it gets into the to-do. So if you like that sort of a thing, you know, as a project manager, Scrum Master, whatever, I try to keep it up to date. Also, the Kanban. So, any questions? Any obstacles apart from the geometric representation context rule that shouldn't have failed you?
Sorry, but it's the first time that I'm attending any meeting about IfcTunnel, and I'm a little bit lost at the moment. I just heard that we are supposed to submit some IFC files, but
Correct.
from our PO, she attended some meeting we had last week, but I don't know what kind of IFC files
So
should
I
be.
think, Michelle, I think it's best that we share the YouTube link again, right? And then we have all of that, because this meeting is just half an hour long. It's mainly for technical issues. If I go through the entire thing, it's going to take a lot more. But in principle, I can show you on an example. You open you fork this IfcTunnel deployment repository. You open a pull request with this template. You upload the file, and then the workflow gets triggered where you get the check. So this one was okay, but in the end, let's look at one that has a report. So check gets triggered, and it gives you a high-level report. Of course, you can then ask questions and issues and so on if you don't understand something. But this one, for example, failed project representation context, and you have the sprint documentation in sprints, so you know what to do. What we're doing this time around is project assignment, unit assignment, representation context, declaration, and we're trying to set up the project file in a nutshell. But of course, the YouTube video will give you much more information on that.
Thanks. And so could you please send also in the chat this YouTube link?
Certainly.
Thanks.
Sergey, Frank speaking. I'm still lost. I don't know what kind of scenario we should share, exchange with you. What do you expect actually? Because when I look at this length unit and so on, I mean, this is basic IFC files. Do we have a common project that we like to all be together? I mean, I don't know, a tunnel somewhere in the world and so on? Or do we just upload to your site any file?
We're just building the file from scratch. So we're trying to get a proper IFC file built from scratch, meaning if I show you one of the pull requests, let's take the third one this time, you're just building the file. So you need a correct header, you need the project structure with all of the basic project setup. And like I said, we're checking that you correctly assign the geometric representation context, that you declare, that you know how to declare stuff. Maybe have one example of what you declare, and that you have units, and that you have a length unit, area unit properly specified. That's pretty much what we're doing in the first sprint.
Okay, but we don't have a scenario that is textually described somewhere and says, okay, we want to deal with a project that represents an underground space with 1-2 tunnels and so on, and we want to exchange data in I don't know, feet or thing like this. We just do freely what we want.
Yes, pretty much.
Okay.
I mean, we probably could supply some use case, but typically you have sort of an NDA or something, and this sort of data doesn't want to be shared.
Yeah.
So to avoid this, it's probably better that you come up with a couple of numbers. But for this first sprint, you don't even need the numbers because it's pretty much just structural.
Okay, I get it.
Sergey, on my pull request, there's a failure, and then it just says refer to report, but I couldn't work out where the report was that actually identified what the failure was.
The report is underneath the check. So if we go to your file, let's actually go to your pull request. You can go to actions, but there you will get all of the actions that will run. But if we go to your pull request and go to checks, you get your workflow, and the inform IFC workflow. Actually, let's just rerun it. How do I? Probably have to go to summary. Indeed. Okay. I go to summary. You get your report, and here you can see that what we're checking. We're checking project units, length and angle unit, project declaration, project representation context, and this one was failing in project representation context. So project was failing, and in order to actually know what you're doing, this is not as detailed. You probably have to ask in the issue what was actually the failure, because it's a more generic report. We probably need to work on that a bit. But in principle, we figured out what was the problem. It was actually the problem was actually in the check. You can also download check results here. Let's maybe do that also. where you get your markdown file. It's pretty much the same thing, where it gives you the information if you want to download the stuff. So, like I said, we probably need to make it a bit more detailed, but we did figure out what was failing, what exactly was failing. Since we have this issue open from IVAR, and it was this problem that we took the wrong part of the documentation where it said the context identifier has to be model and plan, but of course each of the generated files had this reversed, so context type was actually model. But as you see, we were checking for context identifier to be model.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, I figured it was probably that, but I couldn't quite validate it. So that's helpful. Thank you.
I think it should be that, yeah, because we had the same failures on all files apart from the bever file that replaced them. But yeah, the reports are always in the summary. So if we go back, or let's do this once again. You go to your pull request, you go to checks, and here we have to go to get back to summary. Okay, just click the first one. So just click this one here, and then you get to the summary, and the summary shows both the artifacts generated that you can download, and it also gives you the report, renders the report underneath. And the thing that gets reported is always the GUID of the rooted item. So you won't get a report saying geometric representation context was wrong. No, you're just going to get the reference to the template. But of course, you can also then go and search for the project representation context template, which shows you that the project needs a geometric representation with a context identifier, context type, and so on. And you can find your way around here. So you probably need to make it a bit more detailed, but in the end, you can also just go to the template in question that failed and find your way around the report. If it was project declaration, then you would have to search for project declaration. And here you have what project declaration wants from you.
Thank you.
So as I said, we are mostly checking structure. We're not checking content. That's for the certification part. We're mostly checking that it works as it is here and that you can produce the files and that eventually we may be able to read each other's files. And if something doesn't work, of course, this is the place to give us your feedback and we will work it out and regenerate the documentation. And there's also the case where we, for example, added a dataset information and dataset reference entity, but there was no template assigned to it. So we propose a template you are expected to test it. And if you have any feedback, of course, that would require us to update it, we will do that. That template, of course, was not in this sprint. This sprint only works with existing templates. So it's not yet in the documentation, but as soon as I regenerate the documentation, we can use one of our next meetings here to look at it, what's exactly expected. But you always have these references by name somehow. This one is not exactly by name, but here we check a bit more than just the template, just the structure. But pretty much you always have some sort of a reference by name, so you can immediately find it in the fundamental concepts and assumptions part of the documentation.
Excuse me, I have one question. When it is considered to start implementing tunnel specific entity types, or I'm now looking at the documentation and there is IFC tunnel domain, but it doesn't contain any entity types, new entity types related to IFC tunneling.
So if you go to our sprints, we have them documented here. You can see what's going to be here. This is not yet tunnel specific, but these two are definitely new. So in the next sprint, sprint 1.2, we already introduced the new entities for global positioning. So this was developed already by Tunnel. You can immediately see that because it's not linked. So we have to compile these concept templates. And if you go to the third sprint, again, you see tunnel specific because it's not there yet. And if you go to the second sprint then already has stuff from tunnel.
Also, please, could you send that link so that
To the sprints?
Yes, that
you can find in everything practically in this tunnel deployment. So let me give you this link also for the sprint documentation. But if you're lacking some information, your access point to the stuff that we are doing is the BSI infra room organization, and here you have the repositories that we're using. We're using this one, we're using this one, and we're using this one. This one is for updates to the IFC specification. This one is for the actual testing, and here we publish we just upload the documentation once we have certain issues worked out.
yeah, sorry, I've been involved in this project about 25 minutes, so I'm newbie in this project, so I didn't have.
I will try to find the YouTube link in the meantime and share it with you.
I've sent it already, Sergey.
You did? Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
So now we're in sprint 1 and we are supposed to submit the files until which date? Is it probably it's here, submission or closure until the 9th?
Yeah, so we're trying to get everything in by this date. We're trying to close the sprint on this date. Of course, it's not that strict, right? We're still gonna take files in later, but that's the plan.
It's pretty soon.
Yes, I know, but the first sprint is very rudimentary. Yeah, so we're pretty much just working on this part. So what we have here is, 30, 40 lines of IFC.
Yeah. Mhm.
Maybe, Sergey, as an example, could you just show what has been submitted already and what has, or maybe you did, what has failed, for example, as a, was that one? Yes.
Certainly. Let's look at Geometry Gym. Sorry, John, to expose you like this, but this one, for example, failed. It failed, we think, because of the wrong check. It was actually on us. But John, for example, put up a file with the 3 templates assigned. So there's some documentation to it so that we know what you actually did. So if John, for example, would just upload this this template assigned to the file, you can easily just remove the other 2 and do it step by step and get a report for every single step you take. Once this is done, when you fork, of course. So maybe let's look at the forks of this repository. So we have a couple of forks. We have Amberg, Ivar, John Merchant. Okay, this is us, and we have Aka. You just fork this repository. You put it on your organization, on your personal account, wherever you want. So I have a couple of organizations already, or my personal account. You fork it, then you get the same copy, of course, on your repository that you have here. And the only thing that you have to do is then compile this pull request and upload the file into the files folder. So into the files folder, as you see, Geometry Gym created their own folder, uploaded the file here, and that's basically it. And then you can publish the pull request, and we will look at it. Once you upload, you get the workflow triggered with the checks. Here, if you want the report, I just before figured out that you have to go and click on this part first. You're not on the workflow item, you have to go to summary, and here you have the result of the check. And if anything's failing, it's going to say that these instances are failing in this particular template. And if you want to, if it's not clear to you what was failing here, just post an issue. Or you can, of course, also go to the documentation and search in fundamental concepts and assumptions for this particular template and also see what we actually checked. So we try to keep this up to date. The blue ones are typically what's checked. These are the rule IDs, and the structure is what is checked, so that you have this structure, that you don't have a representation subcontext somehow in context. These kinds of things are checked. And if there's any blue markings, those are also the ones that we check. And if there would be more that you would like us to check, of course, feedback very welcome. We can make more of the attributes here blue and check them. For this particular check, for project units, if we have anything special that we check, you would find it as another entry that further specifies what is checked. Because if we look at the project units template, project units, you got a lot of a lot of blue ones over here, and we try to help you out in this sort of a statement here that length and angle unit have to be present, meaning that you need something.
And so, likewise, Sergey, maybe could you go through the submission from Aka? Because there is one little point just to take another example. Something has failed.
It's the same thing, Michel.
Is it the same thing? Okay.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. We were checking for the following. We were checking for model here because the documentation was a bit ambiguous for this, and we should be checking for model on the second place. And the issue, like I said, just if it's unclear, just post your issue. We got this post from Ivar here, where we then went into clarification. What's the actual correct way of doing it? It took a while to get the answers, but we found the problem. So you're pretty much looking at the documentation being this and the other way around. So we had to clarify what's the actual problem and what's the actual correct way of doing it. So we have to fix this part of the documentation.
And is there any prerequisite how these files have to be generated? Because I just clicked copy, I guess, copy paste from someone else.
I mean, you can copy paste, but then we're not certifying here, so it's mainly for you to give us feedback. We're not testing you or anything. We're not trying to be the judge here. We're just trying to test the schema. So what we're looking at is mainly feedback from you to get an implementable schema. So it's all up to you. You can copy paste, test our checker, whatever you want to do. But we would prefer that you give us feedback, of course.
Nadia was joking, of course, but at the end, this is very much of a declarative, opportunity for you. You want to tell the market that you can copy paste, or you want to tell the market that you can generate IFC files? That's.
No, I just wanted to know.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, if this has to be generated. Like
No,
I would have to implement already the export of at least this part of the IFC file, the project, or does it have to be, I mean, I don't know, some other software generated some?
It's just to help to build proper files because, like I said in the meeting on Thursday, IFC4 files are still running around and are not correct. So it's pretty much a help for you to start because we have different levels of knowledge. Also, we have very new implementers who never seen an IFC file before. But for the for the veterans, it's also a benefit if they at some point see a correct IFC file. So it's better that you generate, of course. But,
so this structure that we are supposed to submit now is different from the previous versions.
No, this is IFC4. This is all IFC4 based.
This hasn't changed. That part hasn't changed.
This is all IFC4 exactly. So nothing new, but new in the sense that probably nobody does it correctly.
So I think I'm getting the idea now. So I just export some file with the existing export that we have and
you'll be on the safe side.
Submit it to this and
to start
check
with.
it.
Exactly. Sorry, just wanted to ask Frank as well. Frank, are we providing the clarification you were looking for?
You mean for the scenario?
Yes, and
Yeah.
I meant globally for the way we want to take this forward.
At least for this first part, yeah.
Yeah.
But for the rest of the sprint, it would be really nice to have something that describes exactly what we should produce.
Yes, okay, we got
So
that.
we know exactly what to share. But yeah,
Yep.
clear to me. Thank you, Michel.
Any other questions? Requests for clarification?
I would just want to know, there is another meeting today at 8 in the evening, or late in the afternoon. Not 8, at 6.
6 p.m. CET, yes.
6 p.m. because I got a bunch of invitations and I just don't know if this meeting in the evening is just the same as this one, but for another bunch of people, or it's something more than what we had today.
All are optional, so you can join or cannot join. What the ones that are mandatory are the ones where we kick off a sprint and where we close a sprint. But for the rest, you basically can attend as you wish. And the idea is that we sort of open up space for discussions and question and answers again. So if we haven't answered all of your questions, or if you have other questions that that you'd like to raise later this PM, that is more than okay for you to join both calls as you wish.
Okay.
Also, if you have just generic questions on like I showed you here in your checks, if you don't know what was checked exactly, or generic questions, technical questions, that's sort of what we're doing in these short meetings. That's why we try to keep it also dynamic with two different meetings, so that anyone can join from all over the world, pretty much. But if you don't have anything and would just like to listen in, also welcome, of course.
Okay. So Sergey, unless there is anything else that you'd like to take people through, I think we can probably adjourn this one and see whomever is interested, or for later this afternoon, 6 p.m. again, as I said.
Thank
We
you.
close this one?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a nice
Thank
day.
you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Have a good day or good evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.